This podcast provides a platform for our guests to share their experiences and inspire our listeners to be brave and bold in pursuit of their dreams. As you listen, we invite you to explore how these concepts apply to your own story. You know what to do. Be great and be grateful. We're mic'd up with Mike DeChocho. Hey guys, welcome back to the show. My guest today has been featured in Forbes, Fast Company, New York Times, LA Times, USA Today, as well as the Today Show. He is the CEO of Atyourgate, the global leader in mobile gate delivery in airports across the U.S. Welcome to the show, PJ Mastracchio.
Thanks for having me, Mike. Appreciate it.
Hey, brother, did I get that right?
You did, 100%.
There you go, man. We only worked on it for 5 minutes off camera. Cool, I'm glad I got it. Guys, check out atyourgate.com, atyourgate.com, to learn more about what PJ's up to here. But I just wanted to start off, anyone who doesn't know what that is yet needs to know about it. So I'm going to give you like a quick, do what you need to do. Tell us, the idea behind this, the concept behind this. It's already active. You're crushing it already. So just share, what is Atyourgate? And then we're going to get into more about you.
Okay, cool. So Atyourgate is a mobile delivery app available for passengers, flight attendants, pretty much anybody inside of an airport where they can open the app. They can select from any number of restaurants or retailers within the airport, not necessarily in their terminal, but airport-wide. They place their order as they would in any street side delivery app. Our staff is badged and in uniform. They go pick up the orders and they deliver it to the passenger right at their gate. Very similar to Postmates or Uber Eats, only inside the airport.
Yeah. And I love the idea because when you and I talked last week for the first time and through a mutual friend, shout out to Tony Watson, the reason that you created this idea, right? We talked about because it was a pain point, something that you did a lot of traveling in your previous roles and other companies you've worked for, some of them your own. And you just realize there's a problem in an airport where if you have a quick turnaround time, even an employee that gets a 30-minute lunch, there's just simply not enough time to sit down and have a warm meal. So tell us, like, when did that light bulb go off? And then, like, how did you turn it into an actual concept? And then not only a concept in your head, but put it on paper, and then you had to sell it to people and create a team.
Yeah, we did. So you're exactly right. It was a pain point that I had, and I knew most other business travelers had, whether I was on a 6 a.m. flight or a 45-minute connection through Houston or landing at 10:30 at night in Miami. The same problem was there every time. I didn't have time to eat, or I didn't have time to get a drink of water even. So, as an early adopter of the on-demand economy, when Uber came out, I did some math, and I haven't driven a car in 6 years. And so I was a quick adopter, an early and heavy user. And at the same time, when I wasn't traveling for business, I was traveling for pleasure. So I travel extensively. And that's where the idea came from, just having a pain point. And I told several people this throughout my journey that, everybody's got a pain point during their day. There's something that bothers you every day. And if it bothers you, there's probably millions of other people it bothers you. And if you don't necessarily have to fix it, but if you can make it suck a little less, it takes a lot of the pressure off. So that's what we aim to do.
And Gary Vaynerchuk, very popular entrepreneur, and especially on social media. He's been accurate a lot when projecting what companies are going to be around in the next 5 years and what ideas are great concepts. And the one thing I hear him talk about a lot with product development and purpose is if you can help out people, limit their time. So and somehow better, like free them up, right? Make their life easier, or something that could be a time sensitive app, which this is, then it has a great chance of being successful. So I don't know if you even thought about that necessarily or heard him say that, but I know you got business savvy. You went to school for business. We're going to get into some of your really cool backstory here. But what I wanted to hit to kind of launch into your backstory is, when did you actually realize that you had that strong desire to be an entrepreneur? Was that at a young age?
It was. I didn't take a traditional route. I started my journey pretty early. 19 years old, I left school and started working full time, and realized about 4 years into a job working for someone else that I didn't want to work for someone else, and had met another gentleman by the name of Chuck Wharton throughout my journey. And Chuck and I started a business together in the late 90s. And it was acquired 10 years ago this month. So In the last, I'd say 20 some odd years, I've worked for myself. I'm very happy to say I've never been on a job interview.
Mm,
Um, my son is the first to graduate college in my crew. So,
wow.
really neat story to have him be the first. But yeah, I didn't take a traditional route, but I knew very early on that I wanted to work for myself. Even
Mhm.
growing up as a kid, I was raised. My father, my grandfather was a chef and owned restaurants and had catering companies. So the time I could walk, I wore an apron and carried a knife and
Yeah.
prep. So always wanted to do something for myself. Never really want to work for anybody else.
And that was your grandfather?
That was my grandfather. Yeah, he was like my
Grandpa?
first inspiration.
I'm sure you got inspired because you saw him, he was sold on that concept and idea, and he would sacrifice, I'm sure.
Oh
I
yeah,
never
yeah.
met
I
your
watched.
grandpa, I don't know the business, but I know that
Yeah.
environment. You sacrifice a lot of things to get
Mhm.
a lot of great things too, and it's that balance, right? And we'll talk about balance and family time. I like to kind of leave that towards the end. But here's the thing, guys. That sun that you see shining in behind PJ right there, that's the Florida Keys, right? So he's down there. He's able to work from home. He's flying around every city in America because he's working on deals to expand Atyourgate. Super cool story. But that's one of the benefits of being an entrepreneur. You can pick up, you have your laptop, you have, to do a podcast. I bring my little kit with me, my podcast kit that has a hard case, and I can travel anywhere and do these interviews. It's a really cool concept, and I love what he's doing. And many of you are going to see those blue bags in the airport if you aren't already. How many are you in now? Is it 20 plus?
We're in 10 airports right now.
Okay. Okay.
We launched just 2 years ago this month. So our
Okay.
first airport was San Diego. We're in 10 now. We expect to be in probably 20 to 25 by the end of this year.
Mm-hmm.
The first quarter of this year was about getting our airports to profitability and understanding
Mm-hmm.
where that works before we start to launch others. So but we're rapidly expanding right now.
Yeah. Well, what I love about the story as well, um, you shared a little bit about your statistics. Can you tell us where we're at for orders? Because I remember you said it's less than 2 years ago you placed your first order. How
Yeah.
many have you? How many people have ordered meals through At Your Gate?
So we've delivered just under 90,000 meals.
That's amazing.
It's really cool. And the majority of those, in our more mature airports being San Diego, Newark, the Port
Mm-hmm.
Authority airports. So that's expanding rapidly. Well approaching 150,000 downloads on the app stores, which is great for no advertising. It's all word of mouth. And we have a 4.9 review on the Apple Store, which is great. And our net promoter score is 78, which is
Mm-hmm.
world class. And that's really what we pride ourselves on. I think,
Mm-hmm.
tech is tech, and I'm no slight to our tech at all, but the people and our employees and their culture and the energy they bring inside of an airport, smiling, happy faces, bringing hot food to a place it couldn't go. That's our
Mm-hmm.
brand. And so we're really focused on our people. But yeah, we have some great numbers, and I think numbers will come. Our goal for the first year and a half was to prove that someone could order food in an app in an airport and get it delivered.
Yeah.
We've successfully done that almost 100,000 times. Now it's time
Yeah.
to expand the business.
I love that. That's great, and congratulations on it, man.
Thank you.
What I want people to realize too, and I know you're not looking for the pat on your back, but you literally were on the ground floor of this company. You started it. Was it a co-founder you had working with you for
Two guys. Yeah, two
two
co-founders.
guys? And I mean, you were literally running orders. What did you do? Like the first 30 or 40 days, you were telling me straight, where
Yeah.
you're physically running those orders. You had to learn the logistics of the business from day one. Share with us the early development and some of the sacrifices that you made, which I know include you sleeping on an air mattress, right, in the early days of launching. So paint
Yeah.
that picture. I mean, this is very real. This is fresh, but you're looking at close to 100,000 orders. What were the early days like?
Yeah, I think it starts with having a good team, and everybody says that, but when you literally have to live on top of each other, you need to have a good team. And so David, Chris, and Tony are the three guys that made this happen. And we set out in the middle of 2017 on a journey inside the airport, and we looked like complete morons. We would buy a pizza, we'd put it in a thermal bag, we'd take its temperature, we'd take it out, we'd take its temperature every 10 minutes and record that. And then you'd find us walking from Panda Express with a stopwatch to gate 1, to gate 2, to gate 3, to gate 4. So we really had to, as founders, had to put some sweat equity in. And what that showed San Diego Airport was these guys are trying to figure this out. They're not just going to turn the lights on, because the airport, specifically San Diego, took a risk. And so it was in my heart, in our team's heart, where we can't let San Diego Airport down. We had investors behind us, but equally as important, this is the one who said yes. And so we set out on that journey. And in January of 2018, we took a 1-bedroom, 1-bath apartment on J Street in lovely East Village, San Diego. And we had 2 air mattresses. David Henniger, our president, slept on one in a little office. Tony Trincanello, who I'd grown up with, slept 3 feet from me on another one. Tony likes NPR and snoring. And then Chris Hartman, my other co-founder, slept in the bedroom. Chris had a back surgery, so he kind of won the short straw. He got the short straw there in the bed. But you know, it was like I played college football, and so to be in a football dorm and live and breathe and fight with guys 20 hours a day with 4 hours of sleep, that's what I was used to. And these guys grinded with me, and I had to lead as a servant leader. I slept on the couch, and I'm not saying I sacrificed everything, but just doing little things for the team. That's how we did this for each other. And for the first 35 days, we got up at 6 a.m., 6:20, 6:40, and 7, shower every 20 minutes. Dave was at Starbucks at 7. We loaded into an Uber. We were at the airport by 7:30. We opened up at 8. We closed at 8. We went home and had a pizza. Tony made some food. Thank God he's an amazing chef. And we went to bed and did it again. And we walked. One day I walked a marathon, and one day I literally walked 26.2 miles. We made the first 4,000 deliveries ourselves. We did have Kira, our first brand ambassador, who's now with us 2 years and is a supervisor. She's fantastic. So we, you know, longevity with employees. But we grinded on this. But look, to everyone who's heard this story before, like blah blah blah, it's real. And if I look back at the pressure and the stress that we're under now versus what we thought we were under then, that was the good time. So to anybody who's looking to start a business, every time you think, excuse my language, the shit's hitting the fan, there's a whole other cow you haven't seen yet. And so just from a grinding standpoint, to go back to the beginning, do it with your team, whether they're people you've known forever or David I just met when we started this company. Chris and Tony I basically grew up with. So, you know, putting a team together that has individuals that are not like-minded. You can go a lot faster when no one's thinking the same than when everyone thinks everything's the same. It just doesn't work. And so David's got an MBA in marketing and undergrad in chemical engineering. Tony and I never went to college, and Chris is a technology degree. And so somewhere between those 4 brains, Tony ran restaurants, and he opened for Tom Colicchio, opened Kraft, you know, 300 top white tablecloth Michelin-starred places. That's Tony's calling. Now he's running the operation. So building a team of people that are different, have different opinions about things. Don't be scared of that, and don't be afraid to grind.
Yeah. And look, I'm not someone that's going to ever say, you know, it's not important to get a college education or be highly educated. I totally agree that for the right person that could be the right fit for where they want to be, right? My sister's a teacher. She had to do that grind to get through 8 years before she can really even start to teach. Sometimes you get your opportunities young and you get to start in the classroom. My point is, you know, you're going to be a surgeon. You're looking at some schooling there, right? For entrepreneurship, I'm still saying go and get educated, but you can do it through books, podcasts, meeting you, picking up the phone. Hey, PG, I got this idea, man. I know you're cranking it right now, doing this awesome thing. I have a similar idea. I'm not competing with you. Do you mind if you can just hear me out for 5 minutes? Most likely you're going to say yes, because you're excited that someone has that in their heart. So I just encourage anyone listening who is looking to maybe start up an idea. Maybe you're already in the grind and you kind of feel like there's a gear if you're getting beat up over and over and over again. As PJ mentioned, there's a whole nother level of it. You think you're having it rough now, but the cool part is there's that 3 feet from gold mentality, where if you literally think before, you know, maybe you close up shop, you make one more phone call or knock on one more door or visit one more nearby airport to talk to one more person, that could literally be the flip of you existing, or, you know what I mean? You guys are doing it.
We are. We've had doors closed in our faces. Literally, we've had laptops closed in middle of presentations by CEOs of airports who I will not name. But you know, we faced a lot of challenges, and I think when if you believe in an idea and you believe in your team, and we really did. It sounds very cliche, but there was never one moment in this journey I thought we'd fail, because I knew we could do it, and I knew we had the right team to do it. And I never wavered, and neither did they. And there was never a time where anyone pulled me aside and said, dude, I don't know if I can do this much longer. They might have thought that, but they know better than to show that, because they know that I pull more out of them. And you know, to that end, driving this thing to where it is now and being able to step back and help grow it is where we want it to be. but I'm going back to JFK in 2 weeks and running orders for a week for Delta. So it's
That's
not
awesome.
out of my blood yet. I still keep my badges. I still have my
Yeah.
runner shirt and my Atyourgate van. So I'm ready to go.
Another story I love is how you connect with flight attendants, pilots, the key industry professionals that allow them to experience Atyourgate. That's the whole thing. It's that experience, and you can explain it to someone sitting on a plane, but if you actually present to them a hot meal in a blue bag waiting for them, I call that the wow factor, right? When they get to experience it firsthand. Share with our audience how you utilize your frequent flying with promoting the service. Tell that story about how.
Yeah.
Remember you were telling me about how you had meals ready.
Oh,
I'll
yeah.
let you share.
All the time. It's one of my favorite things to do. For any listener out there that wants to show off for a flight crew or get a first class meal in 14B, listen up. It's real simple. When we first started the company, I'd get on a flight and I'd ask, and I would do it very discreetly. I'd say, "Have you ever heard of Atyourgate?" 99% of the first couple of flights were like, "What is it?" And I tell them, their eyes would light up, but we were in one airport. We were in San Diego, and now that the network's grown, I purposely fly to our airports, from our airports, whenever possible. And what I'll do is I'll get on the plane at some point, when it's appropriate on the flight. I'll introduce myself to the flight attendant or the pilot, whoever's available, and explain to them, "Hey, look, here's what we're going to do. We're going to be landing in San Diego Airport at 6 o'clock tonight. About an hour before we land, come wake me up. I'm going to hand you my phone, and I'm going to open up my app, and I'm going to order food for the entire crew." And the first reaction is usually some kind of word they don't normally say over the PA system. They're like, "Are you kidding me?" And then literally I give them a passcode to my phone, and I let them walk it around, go to the front, go to the back, go in the cockpit, go in the galley, and they order. And I've had flight crews that, of course, then we land. I'll get off the plane. I'll wait. My staff is already there with the bright blue bags, and it's usually 6 to 8 meals. So it's two of my runners with the blue bags, the blue shirts, the big smiles, and then the crew gets off, and it's Thai food or it's Shake Shack. I had a crew on American Airlines on a Miami to Boston flight that was the last leg of a 6-day trip that I mistakenly gave them my phone and encouraged them to order legal seafood, which when it returned, it was a $350 bill. So
Yeah.
but look at $350. It went viral. They've spread
Mm.
it throughout their Facebook pages, their personal pages. And so for us to be able to get through someone's heart through their stomach and to tell a flight crew, hey, they're dealing with problems 90% of the day. It's someone complaining or ringing a call button. For a passenger to say to them, "I got you. I know what this is like." That's our brand. And that's not being phony. That's our brand. We got you. Just chill. You have 3 places to go when you get to an airport. You're going to the ticket counter, you're going through TSA, then you're going to your gate. Everything else is a nice to have, right? And so if we can tell you, just get to that 3rd place and we'll have whatever you want there, that's the goal of our business. And it's no different for flight crews. And now, in the case of like a Delta, that the first crew I ever fed, we've now signed an agreement where we're going to be handling Delta delayed flights for them with our customer service, our brand ambassadors, working alongside their gate agents to serve them. And that was a full circle journey from feeding that crew 2 years ago, April.
Yeah, I absolutely love that because, again, a lot of times what people forget is they don't want to give away anything, and I agree. Look, you should, when you're a professional and you have, what is it, 10,000 hours doing something and you're considered an expert or whatever that figures. I don't know who came up with that, but my point is, I'm not telling people to always give away your talents for free, but there's a moment when you're like, how are they ever going to know how good this is? They're not just going to if I told them, check out the app and then here's my business card, you're off that flight, it's pretty much done. They meet too many people, they have too many things going on, and they're actually working. But if you did it the way you did and you said, hey, look, this one's on me, I want you guys to just check it out. They have literally nothing to lose. Their gain is a free meal and their benefit is experiencing it. And now they're sold on it. So you may have lost, $100 on that flight and $350 on the bigger flight, which went viral, which $350 to go viral is a joke. And even if it's $50-$100 for a few flight attendants, that experience, they're doing that all day long, almost every day, probably 5 days a week. So they become a recurring client. Your $50 it's laughable at the end of the day, and what that means for a year. Now this is my number of quick research, correct me if I'm wrong, 5,170 airports in the US open to the general public. How do you identify your target location, and is that based on traffic volume?
Somewhat. I think the first airport was going to be whoever said yes first. Okay, let's just be frank there. We talked to maybe 100 airports. 99 of them said, "Guys, this sounds awesome. Go figure it out somewhere else." So San Diego was clearly our first because it was our first ones to say yes. From there, though, we developed a relationship with the Southwest and Alaska Airlines because they're heavy focus there. And so our plan, like every startup has a plan, was to kind of work the West Coast, try to work the Alaska Southwest route network, because what we're finding now is, because now we have 10 airports, is that when they fly to each other, it's a thing. Passengers see it in San Diego, they land in Newark, they see the same blue shirts and blue bags, they're like, huh, that thing in San Diego is here, right?
Yeah.
And so our plan was to go up and down the West Coast. That plan was shattered when the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, where I grew up and was the crown jewel of airports, called and said, hey, we'd like you to open Newark Airport by June 30th. Mind you, this was June 6th. And the next day, much to the dismay of my fiance, I got on a one-way flight to New York and moved there. So we launched Newark next. At that point, we launched the network of the 10 airports. Now we're really kind of following two routes. We like airports above 5 to 10 million travelers because that seems to be the threshold. But equally as important to us is the route network and the alignment with airlines. And so Delta Airlines, being a phenomenal partner of ours, they're now, I'd say, pushing us into some airports as opposed to us trying to get in. And so when they're the major tenant or the hub airport, and I'm not going to name airports, you know where Delta is, not to get off track, but when you have an alignment with an airline, you tend to follow their routes. And so the three airlines we work very closely with are Delta, Southwest, and Alaska. And that aligns really well with where we are. So if you look at the Atlantas and the LAXs and the Detroits of the world, we're already in Minneapolis, we're already in Terminal 4, that'll really help us. When you look at Portland and San Jose and San Diego with Alaska and Southwest, obviously wanting to go into the Pacific Northwest and into the Vegas and Phoenix market, we'll start to grow that network where our flights all go to each other, because that benefits not only the passengers, but the flight crews as well, because they kind of run the same route. And if they know they can get, Trace Gringos in San Jose while they're sitting on the ramp in San Diego, they got it, and so that's part of our plan, is to kind of grow with our airports instead of taking them. That's here in the US. We have a completely different expansion plan that we're going to ramp up second part of this year to go heavy into Europe. And we've got some strategic partnerships that we're in the process of lining up now, that will allow us to grow further, faster. And the European market is something that we are extremely interested in for a number of reasons. One is they're fantastic airports. They are the highest end mall you've ever been to with planes attached to it. You know that. And if you've been to Zurich and you've been to some of the Amsterdam, Heathrow, it's a fantastic environment. There's a need for it there. And honestly, in the European market, apps like this have been adopted much quicker. And so for us to now have alignment with the European market, alignment with the east and west coast of the US, the JFK to Heathrow route, the Boston to Dublin route, it becomes connected to us. So I think our next step is European expansion. Here in the US, we've got a roadmap of about 15 we'd like to get going this year. I think simultaneously, we're in the process of building a team in Europe. I think we can probably get, I don't want to say anything more than a couple done this year. We'd love to get one or two going before the end of the year's out. But international is definitely on our roadmap.
Yeah, that's great. I mean, as I continue to travel, and anyone who's listening and watching this continues to travel, look for those blue bags. They have the @ symbol, Atyourgate. And again, you can visit it at AT. There it is right there. Check that out. Atyourgate, atyourgate.com. And then Atyourgate in the App Store. It's both Apple and Android friendly. And I have a quick question I just thought of here. Using the app, can people search ahead of time? Like if I'm flying into LAX, can I look to see what's available there now? And maybe that's a silly question, but do you have to be in the airport for it to like find your location, or no?
So it defaults to your GPS. So it will look for an airport. So if I or you opened it right now, since we were not within 90 miles of any of our airports, it would ask you to enter a location. At that point, you type in LAX and it'll pull up, and we're not there yet. But in that case, it would pull up terminal 1, 2, 3, 4. You could then click on the terminal, click on the restaurants. You could actually go through and place an order and pre-order up to 36 hours in advance. So if you knew you had a 2-hour layover and you were going to go to the United Club, then you could pre-order, have it land at 2:30. We would meet you when you landed. You get your food and you go off on your way. So we do
Yeah.
have people, especially flight crews, utilize that. So you can search and order up to 36 in advance.
Yeah. So that the whole point is that you want people to use it as a planning tool ahead, not
Yep.
where you land, you look, it hits your Wi-Fi or whatever,
Yep.
your Bluetooth, and then all these things start popping up as options. It's too late at that point, right?
Yep.
So it has to be a pregame.
Yep. And that's for us is has been the challenge, and that's what we've identified as the challenge is, we have a very short window to let people know that they can do this in an airport, because most people
Mm.
still don't know about it yet. No, 100,000 deliveries is great, but that pales in comparison. That's one day traffic in LAX. Okay. So no,
Yeah.
so, when you look at the numbers, it's small in comparison. So
Sure.
so our goal now is to get to those travelers before they go to the airport, and that's
Mm.
where, again, having the size of the business we have now in the 10 airports and growing, getting the attention of the OTAs, the online travel agency, Expedias of the world, that say, hey, Mike's booking a flight out of San Diego. Do you want to add food? Or getting into the credit card apps where your travel services, business travel services. Those are all extensions of our business now, where companies fly thousands of people a year. And if I'm a sales manager, I want Mike to have a subscription to Atyourgate, where he can just have his food waiting for him anytime, and he can make that last phone call instead of being in line at McDonald's. So
Mm.
growing through that and knowing that you're traveling and knowing about Atyourgate before you travel is kind of the next level of marketing here for us.
And I also, I mean, I know that this is a product that you use it once and you basically have a lifetime user, I feel like, because it's an experience again, it's a convenience, and it's a touch of a button. So I don't see how someone who uses it once wouldn't be kind of hooked on it. The fact that you do hire people by personality, and you are not an app or tech business. You are a people business. This is a service. It's a convenience service, but it's really like, how they make someone feel. They bring the food. There's a smile on the face. You even mentioned, like, if they forgot napkins or there weren't napkins in the back, you're the one running and hustling out there to do the little relay in the middle of the airport. So that experience, because that's the other thing. You kind of get one shot, right? And maybe two, not even. That's how it is with the world we're in, right? Is you do someone right that first time, and that experiences the wow factor.
Yep.
You pretty much have them locked in.
Yeah, and what's interesting with our business is there's two very different. There's a bunch of different things from the street side business, but we've all had the experience where the driver's on his way, her way, and they don't show up because the restaurant was closed, or they show up an hour late and your pizza is sideways. We have a much different situation there because we can't be late. If you and your family are waiting on a flight and you've got two kids that are waiting on a Happy Meal and we don't show up and they got 4 hours, daddy's going to be pissed. So
Mm.
we got a very short window to make sure that happens. And so it's
Mm.
very intense to that end. When we launched our business, for those entrepreneurs that are listening about I wanted to launch airport wide day one. We
Mm.
didn't. It was the best thing we did. We launched in one terminal with employees only. And the thought process was, if I missed you, I'd find you at the end of your break. I'd hand you a $20 bill and your food and say, please don't be mad at me. Try it again, right? And we don't kid yourself. We've done that once or twice in the very early days. If I had done that to a pastor, we would have ruined our business. And so
Sure.
not taking too big of a risk, taking a calculated risk was important to us. So that was a really big part. And what we learned was that employees love this. To your point in the beginning, they get a 30-minute break, right? Now they order 30 minutes ahead. We show up in the break room, Mike, right? You go to the time clock, you punch out, I hand you your Panda Express, you got a full 30 minutes to eat it, as
Yeah.
opposed to walking, waiting, eating, punching back in. So
Mm.
it's changed the game, and we learned something by not taking a risk.
I think a big lesson right there was talking about the experiment of it all and having it in one location. As you mentioned, the reason you picked it was San Diego, you said,
They
was
picked us.
because they picked you, right? So that's you're being truthful and transparent, and I appreciate you doing that. Number one. Number two, having one location, you were able to learn and develop and grow at one spot, and then you can maximize the growth. Like whatever you learn there that worked, you can apply. And
Yep.
if you would have opened up 50, you may have had a struggle of you grew too fast. I think sometimes companies do that, and then their problems are bigger than they can even handle. Where you were learning, like, okay, we goofed up an order, whatever. Why did that happen? And you're one-on-one with the situation,
Yep.
and your small, close-knit team that are sleeping 3 feet from each other can talk about it at 8 o'clock at night, and tomorrow you execute it,
Yep.
where you're not having this train wreck, and that could really overtake a company because they can't react to it.
Especially with something like this that's never been done before. You know,
Yeah.
I mean, it's been done street side, but the gates in restaurants are easy. If you've ever been underneath an airport and I blindfold you and spun you around, you wouldn't get out. It's cavernous and you got to go by the runway sometimes. So learning how to get around the airport was really important. And to your point, everything we learned in San Diego, when I had to get on a flight the next day, and Chris, God bless my other co-founder, we basically moved into a 1-bedroom apartment in Jersey City together. At 45 years old, I was laughing. I said, this is my dream job, is I live in Jersey City and I deliver food in Newark. That's what my life was last summer. And it was a dream come true. But my point is, whatever we learned in San Diego, we were able to apply. And so what I did in Newark is when we launched Newark, I'd walk into the break room and I'd say, hey, here's how you use this app. 30 minutes before you break, you order, and then I'm going to show up. You're going to punch out. I'm going to meet you right here at this clock. And guess what? It worked. And then we learned from Newark, and we taught that in LaGuardia. There's an old saying in the airport business that I think is hysterical. It's really simple. They say, once you've seen one airport, you've seen one airport. They're all different. And so you can't operationalize everything. That's the nuance here, is that there's no cookie cutter. I can't just say, okay, Mike, go do this in Buffalo.
Yeah.
I got to go with you, or Tony and our team's going to go with you, and we're going to walk around and figure out how to do this in Buffalo. And it's no different anywhere. And so that's one of the things that sets our business apart. To your point, is it's tech and people, and it's understanding the blend between technology and touch. And that's what we're, I think, really good at.
Yeah, I agree. So here's a cool story I wanted everybody to hear. You finished first out of 100 in a pitch contest. You won $25,000 at the Wharton School for Entrepreneurship. First of all, congrats on that.
Thanks.
It's amazing. And secondly, what was your pitch? Was that first business you talked about selling?
No, that was Atyourgate. So I was running food in Newark Airport, literally running. The air train was down. It was the middle of July. It was about 100 degrees. And I kept getting phone calls from a 215 number. And I have a lot of friends in Philly. And I was like, who's calling? So it turned out to be this advisor for the Wharton School. And I thought it was a joke. I thought it was one of my friends playing a joke on me. And long story short, he wanted me to apply to the program. So I looked at it, and it was a program based on entrepreneurship for scaling. And we had just launched our second airport. And I kind of looked up at the sky like, do I really have to do this right now? And I dropped out of college in the middle of my junior year to get a job and be a dad. And so I'm not an overeducated person. And in the middle of launching an airport, for some reason, I decided to take on this challenge. And I'd say the first 3 or 4 weeks, I was kicking myself, like, what did I get myself into? And I was learning a lot, and it was on your own time. And so I had to teach myself how to learn again, and teach myself how to take notes again, and stuff I really never did. And so it was a really good thing, because it forced me to focus like 5 or 6 hours a week on my business, and not running the business, but actually on the business. And so the first 4 or 5 weeks were a look back into what I'd already done. And it was a really nice retrospective, because in reality, we as a team had made all the right decisions as this program was dictating. And so I was able to validate it and go back to my guys and say, guys, remember when we did this? Well, guess what? That was the right move. And remember when we did this? Like getting a lawyer first. Best thing we ever did. They're the best firm I've ever worked with, and they put a moat around our business and protect us. And that's what we needed. And so validating what we had done heretofore was important for me. When it got to like week 6, that's when all hell broke loose. That's when I had to start to learn and actually like take notes and then read and watch the modules over and over and over again. And Anne-Marie Stevens was a professor I worked very closely with, and I didn't expect much, but they were available. They had office hours online on the this Canvas learning model that they had. And it became, to me, like a quest. Like, okay, I've gotten this far. And the one thing the counselor told me when they asked me if I wanted to join was, you didn't graduate college, and we don't normally allow what they call a non-degreed candidate, I guess, into the program. And they just want to make sure I was going to be committed to it. So that was my challenge. Like, oh, I'm the only one? All right, watch this. Never was intent on winning $25,000 for the company. The goal was for me to do this for myself. This was a personal challenge. There was no, I let people know I was doing it to keep me in the program. I didn't brag about it. I posted something on LinkedIn, like, I'm doing this so people could bug me. How you doing in it? And ironically, the end of the program came, we had to turn in our final. And the final was like my revamped business plan, which we now operate from. And again, I had input from my team. I didn't do this all myself. There was, Dave and Chris and Tony helped. But my point is that everything we had kind of learned in the class, we kind of put in paper, a slide deck, business plan, 1-pager. And then they were going to pick 10 semifinalists or 10 quarterfinalists. And so I got a phone call as I was boarding a flight to Miami to have a meeting. I was living in New York. This was last year when we were living in the city. And when I landed in Miami, I found out I was in the top 10. Great, awesome, cool. They said, we'll let you know if you're in the final 5. I landed back in New York that night, and they said, you're in the final 5, 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. It's a web presentation just like this. Cool,
Mhm.
no problem. I can do this. So the one day a year I don't get up at 4 a.m, Amy's poking me saying, don't you have this Wharton final this morning? I'm saying, what time is it? She said, it's 5 to 8. And I'm like, here we go. Yeah. So I jumped out of bed, and we had just moved into our apartment in the city. So with the exception of clothes, we had just nothing but boxes in the living room. So I hastily set the laptop. Actually, Amy did, God bless her. She set the laptop up to get the lighting. She did this whole thing today. This is not me. I would have been
Oh,
in the
this is
corner.
great.
And fixed my hair. I threw the Atyourgate shirt on, and this is a great. You're gonna love this story. It's really funny. I don't tell this story on camera, so this is a good one. So there's 5 finalists. There's first two presentations, then myself, and then 2 more. And second place is 10 grand. First place is 25 grand. Anything less than money, I lost. So I'm now hell bent on winning this thing. And so I have the microphone and the video's on, microphone's muted, and I'm watching. The first presenter goes, and no disrespect to those folks, but I'm like, all right, I'm better than this. The company's better than this. I can do this. The second one, now I'm amped up. I'm like, I'm in the top 3. I'm in the top 3. So now I go on, and there's 6 professors on the screen. There's like 40 listening in, all Wharton professors. And there's me, right? All my glory. And so I'm dressed in the same shirt and probably the same hair. And I said, look, they said, do you have any slides? I said, no, I'm just going to tell you a story. I have a great story to tell. And so I told the story for about 4 minutes, left some gaps where I know they could ask some leading questions, which they did. Turned off my camera and proceeded to go into the bedroom and tough talk to everybody. And I got this. They're going to write me a check. Yeah, Wharton, pay me. All of a sudden I hear in the background, PJ, your microphone's still on. So I had not muted my mic. So I was like talking all this crap about the other people and Wharton. Like, yeah, I told you I'd win this shit. Like I was literally going nuts. And so I looked at their faces. They were all hysterically laughing, muted it. The other 2 went, and then there was about 5 minutes of purgatory. And then they came back on, and one other company finished second, and we wound up winning first place. So to me, the money was great, went right to the company, obviously, but for our investors and for me personally, it was a huge validation, and it gave me a tremendous amount of confidence that I am the right person to do this. A lot of entrepreneurs that are listening to this will have what they call either imposter guilt or success guilt, where I look at myself in the mirror, I'm like, man, I was a teenage dad, a college dropout, I don't have college education. Why am I in this position? Well, if you spend all your time worrying about that, you're not going to be in that position long, number 1. And number 2 is you got to look back at all the people that helped you get there. And so, we talked about this last week, and you mentioned this earlier, part of my goal, and to your audience, is to be available to folks, whether it's an airport idea or a new widget. I may be able to help, but if I can't, I guarantee I know somebody who does. And that's the biggest, if somebody asks me like besides Amy and our pets and stuff and my kids, and what are your greatest possessions? It's my friends and my network. And that's what enabled me to get here. And that's what I'm now so blessed to be able to share with people, because that's how you get ahead in life, is when people want to carry you with them. You can't carry everybody. You need to be carried at some point.
Man, you knew you had a good idea when your microphone's on and you're kind of hot dogging it like that. And there were 2 more presenters
Yeah, there
that
were.
heard you.
Oh yeah.
I almost wonder if the mental, if the fact that they saw that level of confidence actually kind of almost like an athlete who just scored a touchdown and is celebrating, like the other team gets deflated. You may who knows, but
there's a mental aspect to sports, right? So
but you didn't do it for that reason.
My intention was just to be a wise ass, but whatever.
Sure. I think that story is,
it's actually on YouTube,
hilarious.
and at I'll find the minute mark and email you. But
I'm gonna watch it.
The YouTube, and you can actually hear me in the background because it's the whole finals. It's everyone's presentation.
I would love to watch that.
It's pretty funny. I don't share with a lot of people.
Well, what I was gonna say though, the reason I brought that up is the fact that you still won. I think tells that the business concept in your presentation was so strong that even with a gaffe like that, it's still won. It's like it was like more bulletproof. And that leads me into my next question. Talking about building this and now seeing it turning into a successful business, and you've been a part of other successful businesses in the past. What is the most important component, in your opinion, to a successful business, and why? What do you think is that key layer?
Great question. On the surface, it's cash flow management, right?
Sure.
I mean, that's what every business faces a challenge at, is managing growth and cash flow. In order to do that, you have to grow planfully and execute what we say with distinction. So I'd say if you manage your cash properly and you grow planfully, and we grew to 10 airports in 2 years and then stopped. We're going to grow again, but we want to stop and take a deep breath and make sure that San Diego is great,
Mm,
Newark's great, LaGuardia is great. So, cash flow management and growing planfully. And I think those two things really go hand in hand, because if you don't manage your cash and grow too fast, you're going to go out of business. And if you grow
mm.
too fast, and you have, what I'm saying, that's the story there.
Yeah. Great. I appreciate that. I know I can benefit from learning from you, and our audience is not only entrepreneurs. There's other people that are looking to just take themselves to the next level from a performance standpoint and a mindset and mentality standpoint. Maybe they're early on and thinking of an idea, and I hope that there are people tuning in that are in that boat, because that's part of the reason I'm doing the show, is I want to help them get to the next level. And you mentioned on our first call how important it is to attract great employees and team members, and how you personally strive to lead them by example every day. You talked about you running orders in the beginning. What are some ways that you feel a business can improve their employee retention? So you get that great employee, how do you keep them?
Yeah, I think it starts with interpersonal relationships, whether it's the folks they work with on a daily basis. Our employees have to work as a team every day. It's very similar to a sport. We're playing zone defense. Someone's near Shake Shack and it's got to get to 38. Well, they're going to meet in the middle and hand off, right? And so that communication is key. So having a work environment that is not only not hostile, but promotes a culture of giving and of delivering. I mean, that's what we're doing. We're
Mhm.
bringing joy. Food is joy, right? And so it starts with having a work environment that is very fun to be in. The airport, to that end, is a great place to work, because there's new people every day. You don't, new celebrities, there's athletes, there's movie stars. You just don't know who you're going to see. One of our employees has a celebrity page of pictures with him with every celebrity he's met in Newark Airport. And so having a cool place to work, and then I think having access to leadership is important. I get texts from our employees. I texted Kira on January 31st and said, "Happy second year with us. How's Nico and your puppy?" Like that's
Uh-huh.
and that's not me being kitschy. And I think they see that. And the other thing is having the same culture at the top to the bottom. When I show up in the airports, it's hugs, it's how's your baby, it's how, they know me, and I pride myself on being available for them. And they can go on Twitter and see videos of me jogging the Jersey Mike's jog from A to C in 100-degree weather, holding a bag of food because the air train's down. And I think leading as a servant leader is important. Being compassionate is important. And that helps foster, again, all that helps foster a good work environment. And being able to listen is the last thing. When there's not only a problem, because those things tend to work out on the ground level, but listening to our team. And I'll give you an example. Our group in Newark, Mike and Mary Kate Foley, Mike Rosenberg, we kind of handed the keys to that airport to them and trusted them. And they were new hires. Both folks I'm dear to my heart. Mary Kate came from the Ritz-Carlton. She was the front of the house manager for the Ritz in Philly. And Mike ran large grocery store chains. And I always wanted to hire them, but didn't really have any job for them. And then when this came up, I said, "MK, can you please move to New York from Philly?" Which she did, God bless her. She brought Mike with them. But my point is that we put those employees in charge. We gave them we gave them some ownership of this company. And in doing that, they were able to come back to us and say, "We need a kosher store because there's kosher food scattered. We need to work with Avis, the rental car counters," right? And so getting feedback from making your employees, whether it's a runner who says, "Hey, I think this is a new delivery location," and I text them and say, "Hey, Eduardo, thanks for giving us the Terminal C location the other day." It's important. And so that fosters a collaboration and a work environment that's extremely fun to be around. And look, it's not rocket science. We're delivering food. At the end of the day, people smile, and then our employees really like that. They're getting a smile every time they do it.
Perfect. Yeah, I totally agree with you there. Something we also talked about off camera that I think is relevant. I mean, we talked about a lot of the cool things from your concept, the idea, the pitch, winning the Wharton School, that whole story. Your first delivery, your 90,000 deliveries, where you're at today, how you're scaling, your partnership with Delta. These are all beautiful things. They pump you up, you get excited. Something that, as I study entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs, the highest level, highest performers in the industry, the common thread is that they've all overcome some kind of massive adversity or major setbacks in their lives. Can you share a moment when you had to bounce back or persevere through adversity? Could be with Atyourgate, it could be something with football.
Yeah, I think to tell one tale would be doing it a disservice. And I
Sure.
think everyone's faced several moments of adversity, whether it was finding out I was going to be a father at 18 years old. That kind of set the
Sure.
tone for, well, here we go, right? Um, to decide to drop out of college and get a job in a warehouse unloading trucks at a vending machine company in Jersey, to quitting my job, moving to California after 9/11 and starting a healthcare company. I think everyone faces multiple moments of adversity that propel them to where they are. For me to say that there was one single moment that propelled me to this moment would be doing it a disservice, like I said, because I think every moment you got to believe in yourself. You know, parents tell me, "What are you doing moving to California? All the healthcare business on the East Coast." I said, "But I think biotech's coming," and biotech came, right? And so, following your gut and believing in yourself in the face of adversity is the most important quality that you can have as an entrepreneur. So, I can't name one moment, but I can name, if you want. How much time do you have?
Yeah, right. So here's the thing. I'm not necessarily looking to you don't need my validation, right? But I'm seeing you and hearing, talking to you on the phone last week, and now this interview, I can see that you have made the most of that decision when you became a dad at 20 years old, and you know, you were going to school, you were studying business, so it's not like going
Yep.
into business
Oh,
as
yeah.
a surprise. You didn't go into something totally off your vision, but you're making the most of that decision every day. And sometimes I know it's hard to reflect on it. So I just want you to like take a moment either right now or after this interview and just realize, you know what, that was crazy adversity. 20-year-old kid, right? You were going to probably, you wanted to be a football star at that
I was
point.
playing football at Kentucky, and
Yeah.
the world wasn't turning for me. So,
And here's the thing I want people to realize. You are a 4-time University of Kentucky award winner. Share what that means?
yeah, it's called Wildcat Pride. So I was a
Mhm.
walk-on. I wasn't a scholarship athlete.
Okay.
Wound up making the team. My freshman year, I redshirted. We were a crash test dummy. You play on the scout team, and I was a wide receiver, and I'm not a very big guy. So when the crossing route came up, I was the one who said, "I'll do it," and kind of just got my head knocked in, earned the respect of my teammates. And throughout the course of the week during practice, they give out awards for the game performance in practice. And my position while I was a wide receiver, they gave me the joy of playing outside linebacker on defense during the week on the scout team. And the reason wasn't because I was some badass, hitter. It was because I could give him what's called a look. I could get there the same time the big guy from Florida was going to get there, give that guard the look. And so there were several times throughout my career where I would, get bludgeoned for 4 days straight, but give them that look they needed. And you win the Wildcat Pride Award, which was a huge deal. You got to pick any meal in the world that you wanted to eat, and they prepared it for you. And, you got to eat it in front of your teammates. And so I would have, I already knew what I wanted. I had surf and turf, man, lobster steak one time. I had zuppa de pêche flown in from New York, which is, is a seafood dish. So,
Yeah.
but that was a big time thing to have happen for me. And again, being recognized by your teammates is more important than being recognized by your coaches in my mind, because they're the ones you're out there competing with. And football is one of those sports that if all 11 don't do their job on a play, it doesn't work.
That's awesome. Now I got the Bills Mafia flag hanging over here,
Yeah.
so I'm going to make a statement, and hopefully I don't get this wrong, because they're going to take the flag away from me. But one of our favorite players in Bills history is Stevie Johnson. Did he not
Yep.
play? He was
He
a
did.
wide receiver for
Yeah,
you,
he
right?
played.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. The flag stays up.
Flag stays.
He was
Yeah.
one of my favorite guys, man. He wasn't like this
Tough kid.
6'4" guy, but he was like you said,
Tough.
slot receiver, kind of shifty. My dad called him Sneaky Johnson because he was
Yep.
sneaking
Yeah,
in.
he's a tough kid, man. I like watching him. Randall Cobb, this kid Lynn Bowden, they just had whoever gets him is gonna get another. So it's good to see the football program where it is. I'm proud of what they've done there.
And you not only played football, you coached football. And this is a cool story. You coached an 8-year-old Sam Darnold. As many listeners may know, he was drafted 3rd overall by the New York Jets in 2018. Did you see that giftedness in him at 8 years old? And what was that experience like? And do you keep in touch?
Yeah. So, as any dad who's played football before signs their kid up for football, they give the old, "Hey, who's this coach?" And they say, "You are." And I had already, I'm very lucky to play for Bill Curry in college, who had played for Lombardi and Shula, and was a center for Bart Starr and Johnny Unitas. So all those playbooks and all those lessons that I learned from him, I put in a little corner and knew I'd use them one day. And my oldest son, Tyler, played football up through high school. And my younger son, Chris, and Sam were the same age. And Chris and Ty were very different kids. Oldest a little more, book students. The little guy was me. He's a maniac. And so we assembled this little team of beach bum bullies, we called them. They were these little tow-headed kids in San Clemente, California. And Sam, like everyone else, my first day at 7 and 8-year-old football in pads, your first 2 weeks are in shorts. And I have every kid try out for every position. No one's a lineman. No one's a quarterback. Everyone throws, everyone runs. And then Then we kind of slot them. It's Pop Warner. It's Asian weight. So there's not big, giant kids. They're all around the same size and shape for the most part. And, Mike Darnold, Sam's dad, who I love, and I do still keep in touch with the Darnolds. But Mike is a big, huge guy. And he's just a sweetheart of a guy. And he's a huge guy. I say, Mike, do you want to be my offensive line coach? He's like, yeah, sure, coach. I don't know what I'm doing, but tell me what you want me to do. So I assembled a staff of like dads. And the first day we had all the kids throw. And Sam gets up in line and throws a ball. And I look at his father and he goes, he's a pitcher. And I said, I can work with this, right? And so he had a live arm from day one. My claim to fame is I didn't screw him up. I'm not saying I taught him a lot. I coached him for four or five seasons. We won the first year. We were 10-0, and I thought I was a great coach, and I had four D1 athletes in the third pick in the draft. But the thing with Sam is I still keep in touch with him. Anytime I message him, and I don't bother him, but when he got mono, I texted his dad and said, what the hell's going on? And of course I texted Sambo, and we still keep in touch. I went to the home opener last year, took my dad, got to see them before the game. But the thing with Sam is he's a hardworking kid. He comes from a great family. Mike is still working. He's still in construction and building. Chris is still a teacher. His mom, his sister Frankie played volleyball at URI. They're a really close-knit family. Sam's a real hardworking kid. And, I think that and he's very close with Josh, the Bills quarterback, Josh Allen. They're very close. I've seen, in fact, when we're done, I'll text you a few pictures. His dad sent me pregame last year, the two of them together, laughing and joking. Yeah. So I do text with his dad on game Sundays. When he's at the game, I'll film a touchdown that Sam threw and text it to him so he can watch it on his phone. Because as you know, you're at a game, you see it once and what just happened kind of thing. So, right. But they're great people, and I was really blessed to coach him, and still do keep in touch. And those memories of those teams when they were 9-0, I told them if they won their 10th game, I would take them to the championship game in a white Hummer limo. And this was, 14 years ago. So this is, 8-year-old Sam, and I have a picture of the whole team lined up outside this white Hummer limo, and we went up to the game. So great experience, great kid, hard worker, and he's inspired me. I get goosebumps watching him. It's kind of neat.
I love that story. Can you actually send me that picture so I can put it up? I'm going to put that up. But if you're watching this on YouTube, you're actually looking at the picture right now. That's such a cool story. I mean, obviously you're a passionate football player who had the opportunity to coach, and you didn't know where all that was going to lead. And to have one of the players on your team, you mentioned some D1 players, but the third pick overall, I have to say, being a Bills fan, it's hard for me to say I'm rooting for Sam Darnold, but here's what I actually would love. If we can get from Josh Allen and Sam Darnold, similar to what we had back in the 90s with Jim Kelly and Dan Marino in Miami, I would love it if the Jets and the Bills were battling for AFC East and that other team out in New England was maybe like taking a seat for a little bit, like just go over there and take a breather. We don't want to see you for like 2 more decades. I would love if Allen and Darnold were going 350-yard performances, and that would be fun
too. So that would be a lot of fun, and you got Lamar in that draft class, and so it's gonna be an interesting time. And as a lifelong Giants fan, I've never hated the Jets. My mom was a Jets fan, and so when Sam did become a Jets player, now it's must watch for me. So I definitely watch every game he plays in. It's pretty cool. So.
Yeah, I know we talked about you being a Giants fan. They're my second team. Just those 2 Super Bowl performances were must-watch TV, and the fact that they were both over the Patriots as a Bills fan is always I just enjoy watching them. I can watch them again and again.
Yep. No, me too. I am very lucky to have been at all 4 of the Giants Super Bowl wins. So my uncle played for the Giants and traveled with the team as a kid, been out to San Francisco, saw one of Joe Montana's first playoff wins. I was in Chicago in '85 when the Bears shut him out and wound up winning. And then '86, I was in Palo Alto, and '91 in Tampa. And then I got to see him beat the Pats in Arizona and beat the Pats in Indianapolis, and got to take my boys to those games. So that was kind of neat. I went to the first 2 with my dad and grandpa, and got to take my kids to the last 2.
Oh, man, those are memories you'll always have. And I appreciate you leaving that one game off where there was this like wide right field goal. It's not that important. Not important. I don't know what you're talking about.
Never saw it before, nor wide.
No big deal. Hey, man, you're hanging in Florida. You're up and back and forth on the East Coast, going out to California quite a bit. You lived there for a while, I believe.
Yep. Yeah, I lived in California for 16 years.
You're all over the place. Your business is literally traveling and taking care of people all across the country and now the world as you look to develop. So what is your mindset for a balanced life? how do you balance the company? I'm sure Amy, right,
Yep.
is a big part of balance. And how do you make sure you're enjoying and you're present with them, enjoying your
Yep.
time, but you don't, you can't like take your focus off the business and you can't take your focus off the family. Talk about how you work through that.
Yeah, that's a great question, and I've really been asked before, but I do think about it often. So for starters, Amy's been with me since the company started. She started it with me. She came to the very first meeting. She's brought more ideas to the table than I can count, and it's been helpful with our marketing programs. And so having her involved in the business is important because, quite frankly, we're in a really small place in the Keys. We're not in a mansion, and I work from home, and so Amy hears every conversation I have from the morning I wake up to the time I go to bed. So she's, fortunately or unfortunately, intimately involved in the day-to-day workings of the business. That being said, it takes an extremely patient partner like her to allow me to do these types of things. And she does see the greater good. So in contrast to that, we do travel a lot. We've moved around the country a bit together and had some fun doing it. And, we do have a balance. I can't say it's a perfect balance right now because this is really the time, but there's a light at the end of the tunnel and we do spend an inordinate amount of time together and we travel together and we enjoy our company. So being with a person that can be supportive of your journey, be sympathetic. And, I always joke that, I'll be in the middle of like 4 things and I'll hang up the phone and Amy's just been waiting to ask me one question. And I feel so bad because I'm like, okay, what is it? And she's like, oh, sorry, I'll ask you later. And it's like this. So, it's just still that balance you have to take of, it's the balance of between she walked into the office and I walked into home on a call. You know what I mean? It's both of our place. So she's been amazing like that. That support is what you need. And I think going forward, I think I was able to take kind of a step back from the operational part of the business and kind of turn it over. And that allowed me, there was a time there where we really didn't see each other for around 6 months because I was running orders all the time and she's working and just, the business is open when I'm there kind of, and we're there. And so all those challenges that we've been through make a really strong couple. And so we're on the other side of that now and we're able to enjoy even the smallest things. And that's the last thing I'll say is that, when you're an entrepreneur, and in this case, I've personally sacrificed a lot. At one point was sleeping on a friend's couch 2 summers ago. Thank you, Kurt Higgins, by the way, my man. But in this journey, having a partner that can go from flying first class to taking the bus, we didn't do that. But, my point is, when you get to the point where you're taking the bus or you're going to Coinstar to eat dinner because you made payroll for 80 people, but you're not getting paid. When the times get rough and you can have fun then, as the times get better and better, we'll need less to have more. And that's a great part of a relationship. And that goes with your business too. And so being humbled by this and having someone that stayed with me while I've been humbled to pat me on the back and say, it's going to be okay. You're going to do this. She's never once not believed in this. So that's an important part of this. And that's been a huge part of this journey.
Yeah, that is a blessing. And it takes a special person, a little bit of a crazy mindset mentality to realize, hey, I'm going to go on this roller coaster. And if you saw the coaster and the way that it went, most people would get out of the line. Like it might start with this big line, and then at the end, there's one person, Amy.
Amy's the one who waits for. In this roller coaster, she would wait for the front car. Man, that's my girl. She's everything. And
hey, brother, cheers to that. I don't know if Amy to hear this conversation.
In the other room. Love you, babe.
It's nice decorating too in the background. He said.
Awesome.
Hey, I got 2 more for you, and I'm going to let you run, man. I appreciate your time today. I always like to do this because I'm audience focused, just like when in business we're customer focused. My audience is everything to me. I wouldn't have the show without them. So if you can give them one message and it's leaving them inspired to be brave and bold in pursuit of their dreams, what would that be?
Don't stop. I think just, off camera, I was telling the 2 phrases I live by. My high school that I went to, Seton Hall Prep in New Jersey. Love that place. Hazard zet forward is the crest. And it means in Latin, no matter what, go forward. And so if you have an idea and you believe in it, build a team. Don't do it alone because if people go alone, fail. You got to build a team. Don't be greedy, but go forward no matter what. Because if you believe in it, and you truly think you can do it, and I'm not talking about flying by jumping off a building. I'm talking about if you think you can jump out of a plane and put a parachute together on the way down, do it. And don't wait for the right time because there is no right time.
I agree. Same thing with relationships. I would say, when's the right time to either get married or have a kid or start your business? Most of us know that the right time is do it now. Or, if it's already something that you're passionate about, dive right into it, or start to at least do some planning around it. The analogy you use is one I use a lot, is jump out of a plane, figure out how to build a parachute. I did that a couple years ago. I think people think I'm nuts. I think I'm crazy, but guess what? I'm still here telling the story about it. And I've learned so much, and this isn't about me, but I'm just sharing it because I think people can be, it's helpful information. I agree. Like, the things that you need to learn to get to your highest level of success really isn't something you can fully understand in a classroom. It's great to get business acumen and knowledge, and how to balance a budget and how to create a marketing plan. It's all smart and you need it. It's absolutely something you need. But how do you feel when you get your gut punched in and then you make one more phone call like 30 seconds later, and or you need to do a pitch and there's 40 people that think you're not good enough and you still have to deliver?
Yep.
You learn that by doing it. I personally think that's why it's so important to dive right in.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think, to that end, whether you're in front of a room of 40 or you're sitting in a mirror practicing for that, being prepared, being confident, and believing in what you got and what you got behind you is really, really important to success. Like I said, this team I built, assembled, is the best of the best, and it continues to grow, and we would be nowhere without them. I'm the least important person in this company right now. They all know that, and I love that.
Yeah, man, I love your mentality. The other thing too is someone might be listening, they're a solopreneur. I'm technically a solopreneur with some 1099 assistants and experts to help me out, right, with projects. So that person can seek out the kind of teamwork you're talking about through mastermind groups, right? Get around great people who are like-minded.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think for us, one of the things we did is for our business was go through Plug and Play, the accelerator up in Silicon Valley. That was a great experience for us because that got us around all those big minds at the C level of companies that most startups can't even get close to. So associating with any of those type of groups, I think is tantamount to, especially the early success, because you're going to get feedback, and you're going to get feedback. And when you hear the same feedback 8 or 9 times, it's true.
Yeah. Hey, I'm going to give you one more question. It's the first time I've asked this one. My sign off, whether it's an email or every episode of my podcast, is be great and be grateful. And I totally mean that. Every day I like to start my days in gratitude. I think of 3 things that I'm personally grateful for. I try to change it up so I'm not a broken record every morning, because it doesn't hit the heart the same way if you're just saying the same thing. So what about you? What are 3 things you're most grateful for? I think I know one answer, but I'll let you fill those in.
Yeah, I think, obviously my relationship with Amy, we talked about that. I'm grateful for the opportunity that I've been given. Higher power. I'm Catholic, so I'll say thank God. But I think I'm grateful for this opportunity. And I think the third part are my friends. Besides the family aspect, having a group of people around me, and I'm extremely blessed to have a lot of friends I've known since the 80s that are friends that I still text with and talk to and mentor, and they mentored me. And I think those are the 3 things I'm most grateful for. But I think as a person personally, I think, feeling appreciated by your team, by your fiance, by whoever it is, that's very satisfying to me. I don't want material things. I say that because I had them and I lost them, and I don't really care for them anymore. I'd rather travel and build memories than have to build statues, kind of thing. And so I'm very thankful for the opportunity. I'm thankful for Amy, and I'm thankful for my team and my friends. No question about it. And I remind myself of that every day. And I think, the amount of energy I've been given by some grace, some crazy spirit that I got 20 hours a day and I go this motor all day long. I don't want to waste it. So I'm really thankful for that too.
Yeah, I love that message. And I, anyone listening to this, think about that for yourself right now. Once you're done listening to this episode, take 3 minutes. If you're driving, maybe pull over in the parking lot and just get real with yourself and live in a state of gratitude, because you can't do that and you can't be fearful at the same time or be upset at the same time. I mean, there's got to be something you can be, even on a bad day, grateful for, because it's mindset and it's perception. It's how you flip it. I feel everything happens for you, not to you.
And you get yourself in that mindset where you have to tell yourself at the end of the day, it's a job, right? It's not my whole life. I have everything into it, but it's not my life. It's my job. And so being able to turn it off at 5 o'clock at night, 6 o'clock at night, 8, whatever time I'm done. You got to do it, because if you don't and you consume yourself with it, you'll never rest. And whether it's 4 hours or 8 hours of sleep, if you tell yourself it's just a job, it's a real simple way of calming yourself down. It's just my job, right? It's just a job.
Yeah. I mean, we could do a whole nother podcast on this statement, but basically, it's your well-being. You got to make sure you're taking care of yourself. So if you turn it off as like a job or part of what you're doing, and you need to focus on Amy and your time and your spirit and everything else, and your health, physical, and what you're eating, the whole deal. You can't be your best version of yourself if you're operating at 32%, or like a cell phone, when you're at 3%, it doesn't function the same way as at 97%. So that could be a whole nother podcast. I want to say this. Thank you for your time today. The information and knowledge that you just put down. I have a whole page of notes here I'm going to review. I know I actually rewatch my own episodes because of the value that my guests bring. And I know I'm sometimes missing it all the first time around. So you have been tremendous. Anything else you'd like to share or get out to the audience?
No, I appreciate your time. I think if your audience is in any of our 10 airports, I would just say, don't fly hungry. That's all.
List them out one more time.
So we're in Newark, JFK, LaGuardia, Boston, Minneapolis, Portland, San Jose, San Diego, Ontario, and John Wayne.
Awesome, man. Hey, thank you so much. Look forward to the friendship. Look forward to you continuing to grow Atyourgate. And awesome. Let's keep that conversation going. But thanks for your time today.
Appreciate it. Thank you very much. Have a great one.
Hey guys, I have to say that interview flew by, no pun intended. So much awesome info and insight from PJ. I love that he shared a story of being willing to sacrifice a lot in the early days to make it happen. Sleeping on an air mattress, living tight, and being smart, growing one airport at a time, opposed to trying to handle as much as possible. Growing too fast can cause issues with quality control and being able to quickly course correct. Another strong takeaway for me, I feel is really important for entrepreneurs and business people to hear as well. He started Atyourgate because of a pain point, traveling a lot and not being able to get food between flights, or risking missing a flight, right? Running around. Think about it. What in your life is a pain point, and how can you create a product or service as a solution to that? That's your assignment. I also love that PJ's football career and the lessons he learned as a player with grit and being called into action, being uncomfortable, being on the practice squad because his timing as a receiver worked well for them, getting a certain look, putting him on defense and practice, and him being willing to do that, right? It allowed him to shine. He won multiple awards, and I think that helped him in business later on because he's willing to do whatever it took, right? So him deciding to apply for the Wharton School pitch contest as well, he could have easily justified not doing it. He didn't have the time to do it. He ends up saying, I'm in this thing to win it, and he wins it, right? They get the $25,000, and the rest is history. This is an interview I'll be listening to as well for more notes, and I'll be rooting PJ and his team on as they continue to deliver, yes, that pun was intended, on an awesome service. Check them out at Atyourgate.com. Thank you guys, for all of you, for tuning in. I'm grateful for you checking out the podcast, and thank you for everyone who's been leaving reviews or sending me personal feedback. I check every single message on social media and each comment. Thank you guys for doing that. You can check out more show notes and information at mikeduppodcast.com, MIKED uppodcast.com. We're powered by Social Chameleon. You know what to do. Be great and be grateful.